On August 24th in the year 79 AD, the ancient Roman city of Pompeii was engulfed by the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius. In a matter of hours, pyroclastic flows traveling at over 700 kilometers per hour buried the city under meters of volcanic ash and pumice, preserving a snapshot of Roman life frozen in time. For nearly 2,000 years, the plaster casts of Pompeii's victims, created by pouring plaster into the voids left by decomposed bodies, have told powerful stories about the final moments of this doomed city. A mother clutching her children, lovers embracing in their final seconds, families huddled together seeking shelter that would never come. These haunting images have shaped our understanding of the tragedy and humanized the disaster in ways that few archaeological discoveries can match. But revolutionary DNA analysis has revealed something shocking. Almost everything we believed about these victims and their relationships was completely wrong. The traditional interpretation of Pompeii's victims relied entirely on their physical positioning and the assumptions of 19th and early 20th century archaeologists who created the plaster casts. When excavators discovered clusters of bodies, they naturally interpreted them through the lens of their own cultural assumptions about family structure, gender roles, and social relationships. A larger body found with smaller ones nearby was obviously a parent protecting children. Two bodies found in an embrace must have been romantic partners. A well-dressed individual near servants must have been a wealthy homeowner. These narratives became so deeply embedded in Pompeii's story that they were presented as fact in museums, documentaries, and textbooks worldwide. The most famous example was the case known as the Two Maidens, a plaster cast showing two bodies in what appeared to be a tender embrace, interpreted for over a century as two young women, possibly sisters or close friends, who died holding each other for comfort in their final moments. Their story became one of Pompeii's most emotionally powerful narratives, symbolizing the human bonds that persisted even in the face of certain death. Museum displays and tourist guides presented them as tragic heroines, whose love for each other transcended the horror surrounding them. But when researchers from the University of Florence and the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology finally extracted and analyzed ancient DNA from the skeletal remains inside these casts, the results completely shattered this romantic interpretation. The two maidens weren't maidens at all, and they weren't even related. DNA analysis revealed that one was a male in his late teens or early 20s, while the other was an unrelated adult male in his 30s or 40s. Their positioning, interpreted as an embrace, was likely just the random arrangement of bodies caught in the pyroclastic surge, their final poses having nothing to do with their relationship in life. This shocking revelation was just the beginning. As researchers expanded their DNA analysis to other famous victim groups across Pompeii, they discovered that nearly every traditional interpretation based on physical positioning was fundamentally flawed. The nuclear family found huddled in a villa's garden room, interpreted as parents protecting their children, turned out to be a group of unrelated individuals who may not have even known each other before seeking shelter together. The DNA showed they came from different genetic backgrounds, different social classes, and had no blood relationship whatsoever. Even more startling was the discovery involving the famous mother and child cast, one of Pompeii's most iconic and emotionally devastating images. The plaster cast shows what appears to be an adult cradling an infant or small child in a protective embrace, creating one of the most powerful visual representations of maternal love in the face of catastrophe. This image has been reproduced countless times in books, documentaries, and museum exhibitions as the ultimate symbol of a mother's sacrifice. But DNA analysis revealed a truth that nobody expected. The adult was male, and the child was not biologically related to him. Whether he was attempting to save a neighbor's child, protecting a young servant, or simply happened to die near an unrelated person, we'll never know. But the story we told about maternal devotion was entirely fictional. Genetic analysis also revealed unexpected details about the population diversity of ancient Pompeii that challenge our assumptions about Roman society. Rather than being a homogeneous Italian population, the DNA showed that Pompeii's inhabitants came from across the Mediterranean and beyond. The victims included people with genetic ancestry from North Africa, the Eastern Mediterranean, and even Central Asia, reflecting the cosmopolitan nature of the Roman Empire at its height. This diversity was particularly striking among those previously identified as family groups, where genetic analysis revealed that households often contained individuals from completely different ethnic and geographic backgrounds. The research uncovered something even more profound about Roman social structures. Many of the victims found in wealthy households showed no genetic relationship to the homeowners, yet their positioning and the quality of their clothing suggested they weren't slaves or servants. DNA analysis indicates that Roman households were far more complex than our modern concept of the nuclear family, incorporating adopted children, foster relationships, clients, business partners, and extended family networks that created social bonds as strong as biological ones, even if genetics tells a different story. The implications of these discoveries extend far beyond just correcting historical misinterpretations. They reveal how profoundly our own cultural assumptions shape our understanding of the past. The archaeologists who created these plaster casts and developed the original narratives were products of Victorian and early 20th century European society, where rigid gender roles, nuclear family structures, and heteronormative assumptions about relationships were considered universal human truths. They looked at ancient bodies and saw reflections of their own social structures, creating stories that said more about their own time period than about ancient Rome. The DNA evidence also demonstrates the danger of relying solely on physical evidence and positioning to reconstruct ancient relationships. Bodies caught in catastrophic events rarely die in positions that accurately reflect their actual relationships or activities. The pyroclastic surge that killed Pompeii's residents was a chaotic, violent event that tossed bodies around, caused buildings to collapse, and created random groupings that had nothing to do with pre-existing social bonds. What looked like embraces may have been bodies pushed together by surging volcanic debris. What appeared to be protective postures may have been the random effects of intense heat causing muscle contractions. Perhaps most significantly, this research reveals how ancient Romans themselves may have had very different concepts of family, relationship, and social bonds than we assumed. The presence of unrelated individuals in what appeared to be family groups suggests that Roman households were flexible, inclusive spaces that incorporated people based on social, economic, and emotional bonds rather than strictly biological relationships. Adoption was common, foster relationships were normal, and extended household networks that included clients, freedmen, and business associates created social units far more complex than our modern nuclear family model. The reanalysis of Pompeii's victims also highlights the stories we may have missed by focusing on romantic narratives. Instead of two maidens dying in each other's arms, we now see two men, possibly friends, business associates, or even strangers, who happen to die near each other during a catastrophe. This less romantic but more accurate interpretation doesn't diminish the tragedy. It simply places it in a different context that may actually tell us more about ancient Roman social structures and the reality of disaster response than the fictional narratives we created. The ongoing DNA research at Pompeii continues to overturn long-held beliefs about the victims and their stories. Each new analysis reveals additional layers of complexity in ancient Roman society and challenges us to reconsider not just the specific narratives we told about Pompeii, but our entire approach to interpreting archaeological evidence through the lens of modern assumptions. The victims of Pompeii deserve to have their real stories told, not the romantic fictions we imposed on them based on Victorian sensibilities and archaeological guesswork. This discovery reminds us that the past is fundamentally unknowable without hard evidence like DNA analysis, and that even the most emotionally powerful narratives based on physical evidence alone can be completely wrong. The real stories of Pompeii's victims may be less romantic than what we imagined, but they're infinitely more valuable for understanding the complex, diverse, and sophisticated society that existed in this Roman city nearly 2,000 years ago. Thanks for watching. If you found these revelations as eye-opening as we did, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more discoveries that continue to challenge our assumptions about ancient history. Let us know in the comments what you think about how our modern assumptions can distort our interpretation of the past. What other historical narratives might DNA analysis overturn? Until next time, Keep questioning the stories we tell about history.